Good evening, and welcome to Unexplained Reality, the podcast about the weird, strange, and unexplained, but real. We are delighted to have you with us. Please grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and enjoy.
Good evening and welcome to Unexplained Reality. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Quinn, and with me is my son,
Harrison Quinn.
So hopefully everybody's doing as good as can be expected in the situation we're all in, being quarantined and basically on house arrest. So, Harrison, you're surviving.
Yeah, if you could call it surviving.
Living the dream, right?
Having to sit at home and do nothing all day is so tough.
I know.
It's hard
I
deal
feel
for
like
me.
everybody's going to be like caged lions when they're released. They're just going to be going 8 nuts, you know?
Either that or it's everybody's like, we're finally out, and then nothing happens and everybody stays at home anyway.
Right.
The pandemic turned everybody to an introvert.
Right.
That's it's always good.
Everybody's going to run straight out and get paper, toilet paper.
Everybody's everybody's off of work except for the essential workers. So all the people that were getting paid minimum wage, and that people said, don't end up like those people. Don't end up flipping burgers. But those are the only people that are working right now. So it's just nice that everybody's finally appreciating all the people who are doing the grunt work that needs to be done in America, especially.
Yeah.
You know, essential
Yeah,
workers,
I mean,
people working at restaurants and people like me working at pharmacies and in healthcare and, you know, things like that on the front lines, helping, doing as much good as they can, going to work and getting exposed to certainly the virus. I've been exposed at least once that I've had confirmation to, but just got to keep moving forward, you know, help everybody how you can and just, you know, look after thy neighbor.
Yep. I mean, you gotta respect the people that know they're walking into the front lines. I mean, to be going to their job every day knowing that they're potentially being exposed to this virus, which is a whole nother topic. Maybe we'll get on that in a minute. But anyways, if you haven't listened to us before, shame on you. But I
Can't blame you.
Yeah. I know there are far better podcasts out there, but anyways, we're free.
Yeah.
If you haven't had an encounter or an experience, you can reach us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com, on our Facebook page at unexplainedreality.com, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any of those. You send us a direct message and we'll respond back to you. And YouTube also, we do have a YouTube channel. All these episodes get pushed out to YouTube, so you can comment out there. Just be nice, because we've had some ornery comments on YouTube.
Yeah.
Mainly about my ability to pronunciate words that are not
Correct.
Well, obviously, but no, most of them are. I think the rudest ones I have were from Canada. I believe somebody there called me a stupid American. So,
It's always nice.
yeah, I can honestly say it was the first time I ever had that happen. I mean, maybe some people have thought that people I've worked with before and stuff that were not, were from foreign countries, but it was the first time anybody's ever directly stated that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so if you've had an encounter or experience, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you, just like the gentleman we're going to talk to tonight. Actually, he didn't reach out to us. We tracked him down and harassed him until he submitted. But no, we didn't actually. I wrote him and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you guys. So, but anyways, let's get back to the coronavirus. So what do you think about the coronavirus, Harrison?
I think there's a lot of things out there. It's affected our country in such a negative way that everybody's looking to kind of blame. It's China's fault. They should have contained it, or it's China's biological weapon. They're punishing us for bad tariffs or whatnot. But I think really it really doesn't matter at this point. We just need to control the virus. We can worry about how it came to fruition later. But as of right now, we need to just keep everybody at home, reduce the amount of cases, reduce public gatherings, just keep everybody safe. And once this starts to blow over, I mean, if it blows over, we've got to figure out still, some kind of cure or treatment. And then a vaccine is, a few months away at least. But it's just, I mean, there's just so much. I've heard, people just are so sure that it's Chinese. It's a biological weapon. They released it on the U.S. because we Trump gave them bad tariffs.
I mean, it is kind of odd that they had all these. I mean, you could take anything and turn it into conspiracy theory. Really,
Yeah.
I mean, really you can. But it is kind of interesting that they had all these riots and
Hong Kong.
protests going on, and all of a sudden this happens and all that shut down.
Yeah.
But why would you do that to your own people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not even just your own people, but to think that it could go back to yourself. You release a virus that you could get infected with, because it's not like it's just it's not something that's if it was a virus that's only carried by rats or something, then maybe it would only affect the common people that are more.
Well, this was a flying rat, apparently.
Oh, yeah, well, most people don't eat bats.
Well, from what I understand, it wasn't because of actually. I don't know. I've heard a couple different things, but one of the ones I heard was that it wasn't actually somebody ate the bat. That the bat had been in the market. They had been eating fish or something.
I don't think anybody really knows
that they contaminated fish, and then
they think it was bats because they've found bats in the past few years that have been carriers for coronaviruses, not COVID-19, but other strains of the coronavirus. And bats, I mean, have been known to carry all kind of diseases and stuff. They're just good carriers. They have good immune systems. They don't really ever catch anything. They just carry it with them because they're in such strange places all the time.
It seems to me we should be studying bats to find out how they can avoid all these.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just
it's scary. I mean, this morning I got a Yahoo News alert that Dr. Fauci, who's over the NIH. National Institute of Health or something like that. Anyways, he's the doctor that's always up there with Trump when he's giving his beautiful conferences, news conference. They're beautiful, and this guy, I think they're kind of at odds with each other, but he's trying to make the best of it as he can. Because not that I'm a huge Trump supporter or anything. He's done some stuff that. I think is good, but I think he sugarcoats a lot of stuff. So I think this guy's straight shooter, because he's a doctor, he's a scientist. And but anyways, they had posted this thing on Yahoo News this morning that apparently he had told somebody, I don't know if it was in an interview or what, that potentially this virus could kill 200 to 300,000 people in the U.S.,
which would be terrible. I mean, it's just. It just not infuriated me, but it's so just disheartening to see ignorant people and, out in public and stuff talking about it, because when it first started blowing up, when it was just more and more cases in the US, every day it was 10, 20, 30, 60, 100, 200. And when it was just starting to, blow up, everybody was like, oh, what's going to happen with this? And just so many people in public that you could just hear them. They were arguing and they're just, oh, the flu is worse than this. This isn't anything. The flu kills this many people per year. This hasn't even done anything. And it's like, the flu has affected us every year. The flu never really goes away. It's kind of a stain on our society. It comes back every year. It comes in season. It never really goes away. We have vaccines. We have to get a vaccine every year that, helps us fight it off if we do get it. But it's something that we have to deal with. And there are a lot of people that die from the flu. It's terrible. But the coronavirus is the flu's never. I mean, some of the worst cases of the flu have shut down some public gatherings and stuff, but nothing like this. This is
No,
unprecedented.
I mean,
By
this is definitely unprecedented.
the viral, just the infectivity of it is insane. It's just it spreads so quickly. It spread from in just a few months. It spread globally. It took over Italy, China.
It was the end of December supposedly when China announced that this was going on.
Yeah.
And now here we are, almost the beginning of April, and it's killed a ton of people in the U.S. and 150, 160 countries have been affected by that. I think it was interesting. A lot of people were saying that about the flu, and I think a lot of that came from because a lot of people were claiming, they had it, but they were just felt bad. Felt like they had a souped up cold. And I think that the problem with this, obviously, is that the incubation period.
Yeah, that's
That
definitely
is the
that's
bad
the
one.
biggest factor of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that people have it and the gestation period of it is a few days, so they've got it in their system and the virus is reproducing through their protein, and they don't even know they have it because they haven't developed symptoms yet, and they're spreading it to they're manufacturing it. Not just they have it on their hands, but it's in
They're
their
spewing
body.
it everywhere.
Spewing it everywhere. Everything they touch, it's just.
And I don't know that they totally understand. I mean, they're saying that it has to be like somebody sneezes and you inhale it or whatever.
Yeah.
But or you touch something that the person is, I guess, spit or sneezed on or whatever. But man, it seems like it's spreading too rapidly for it to be that.
And the thing is, it's not like a bacteria or a parasite. It's a virus, so it's not even living. It's kind of a dormant thing that reproduce it. It hijacks your cells and your protein receptors, make more and more of it. But it's not something that can be really killed. You can sanitize things and that helps, but it's not like. It's not like germs, just regular germs, like the cold or something that you just, a little bit of Lysol and it's gone. It's just such a threat that we were so unprepared for. We always figured, plague is going to be something like germs, and then, we've got isopropyl alcohol and Lysol and disinfectants and all kind of things that we can use for that. But what do you do against something that is so hard to kill and that just spreads so quickly and can lie dormant for such an amount of time and that's another thing. We don't know how long it can lie dormant for without it could
they said originally like 12 to 14 days, but then they said on one of those cruise ships they had found that after 17 days of that ship being there with nobody on it, they still found virus.
I mean, it could be like it could last a month or 2 months on its own and just the flu, I think germs only
I think it's only a few hours
at most, but days. It's just something that we were just absolutely weren't prepared for, because think of it as they're trying to stop peak spreading, because they say in about a week from now, it'll be at its peak. The most people that can have it are going to have it, and they're going to be able to be spreading it if they're out. So that's why everything's closed down. And then after that, they wait 2 weeks because gestation period's 2 weeks, or incubation period is 2 weeks in people. Nobody else has it. They open everything back up, but the people that had it and have now gotten over it still have it on their hands or their clothes or their phones or whatever, and then it just respreads. And
I think that's the dangerous part about, like, Trump was saying last week that, he wants everything open by Easter.
Yeah,
you can't say that. Especially when you got doctors telling you
I'd like
this
to have,
is crazy.
It'd be nice to have everything back open by Easter, to have defeated this by Easter, but that's not a realistic goal.
Ultimately, it's going to have to be more isolation.
Yeah. If you think you have it, you have to stay home. If you think that you may have come into contact with it, you definitely should stay home. And that's the problem. People don't know that they've come into contact with it.
We've done pretty good. I've been working from home for 3 weeks. Your school went to all virtual, and mom's school went to all virtual. So we've only made out for food runs, grocery runs. But other than that, we've been at home. So, I mean, but who knows? I mean, who knows what's going on here? And I do find it interesting. I mean, I'm trying not to be a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes it's kind of hard, especially with the stuff we talk about and deal with. And, the confessionals podcast apparently did something with this. I haven't listened to it yet, but they interviewed some people and did some stuff. But apparently, I've heard a couple things about that, and I did find it, and through some other stuff I've read. But I did find it interesting that this Harvard professor or whatever got arrested. When was it, December or something? And he had something. He had two Chinese nationals or something working with him as students when one of them was actually in the Chinese army or something. And they both got arrested also. And there was something about him getting funded and having some kind of lab set up in Wuhan City. Also heard stuff about there being a biological weapons factory in Wuhan. And then, you got on top of that, I think the confessionals had somebody, I think they interviewed that apparently something about the U.S. military knowing about impending pandemic back before December of 2019, which would be very interesting. How would you know that when China didn't tell anybody about what was going on until December? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, nobody knows. I mean, I don't know the facts of all that, but if any of that is true, it makes it very interesting. I mean, I know that it's true about the professor being arrested. I don't know all the ins and outs of the case, but you can go out to the Department of Justice, which I did, and briefly looked over it. It was never played up in the media, but it sure is, sure as crap is on their website, and it talks about it, you know. So that's very interesting to me. And that was about the time, or just before all this, got really cranked up. But
yeah, and it's just there's so much of baiting going on social media, especially of the older generation, and on Facebook. Really, is what I'm targeting. Instagram, I've seen a little bit, and Twitter is a little bit less, but Facebook is such a breeding ground for just fake content.
I only go on Facebook for memes.
Yeah, I really only go on Facebook for marketplace, and to see what some of my buddies in other states are doing. But I mean, it's just it's like my grandma, Oma. She scrolls through and did you see that thing that said that this and this and this about this person? And it's like, there's no way that's true. There's no way that happened. Yeah. That's very obviously some clickbait. Well, that's targeting older Republicans who aren't maybe as good with technology and are a little bit more gullible.
And how many times have we seen, where some celebrities passed away, they died or whatever, and then they're responding like, no, pretty much I'm still alive. So I don't know why
it's just so much. Yeah,
we get on those kicks,
fake stories and stuff, and just
it's sensationalism.
And I say media, but it really is not even media. It's just some person made a fake account and they posted some fake article that they recreated, and it has no validity behind it. But because people see it, they just automatically think it's true.
Yeah, I mean it's all sensational. I mean even the media's is guilty of doing that. A lot of their stories are sensationalized just to get you to, to tune into them. So, but it's a very dire situation we're in, and hopefully everybody is listening to what is. I know people were talking about martial law and that. This is the onset of martial law. What they're trying to get everybody to stay home. I mean, to me, it's just common sense.
And there is one thing. Let me look it up real quick. Keep talking, but I've got one more thing to add.
I mean, I don't. To me, I wouldn't consider it martial law. I think, common sense wise, if we're not intermingling like that, then obviously it's gonna lessen the spread of the virus, and it only makes sense. I mean, I hate it because I think that this virus is going to damage a lot of businesses, and I think I read some little headline this morning that said 20 to 30% of small businesses could go out of business because of this, and that's just sad. I mean, it's just very, very, very disheartening to hear a number like that, because that is huge. 20 to 30%. I mean, it's already hard enough to be a small business and try to dig in, get your heels in, and start making a profit. And then something like this comes, and it's just not good.
Okay. I can't find what it's called. I can't remember. Zach in Greenville told me about it, but in the coronavirus relief aid whole package of bills and stuff that they're fighting for in Congress right now, there was one proposed by some Democrats that would probably not get passed. I can't imagine that it would get passed, that it would even go to the floor. But it was, the words of it were to prohibit Americans under the age of 21 from exercising their Second Amendment right. And it was going to make it illegal for anybody under the age of 21 to own any kind of firearm. It banned most semi-automatic rifles. Only some hunting rifles and .338 and .22 caliber rifles were allowed past it. I mean, it was like the strictest gun control law.
Under 21?
Under 21.
I don't think you can get it. Can you get a handgun under 21?
I think you can get a handgun. I don't know if you can own a rifle, but I think you can get a handgun at 18.
Okay.
But
I thought it was 21 all along.
But that, and as well as banning of rifles, and it would put in place the red flag law in all 50 states. And I mean, it was just like, all of the super strict gun rights things that they've been trying to push for, all in one
I have a
bill.
hard time believing that would go through.
What's
sad is that they would stick that crap in
the relief package. Yeah, it's
just they're using this as a political pawn. I mean, they're just using this as leverage, and it's bullcrap. I mean,
yeah,
it's very sad. I mean, I'm very disheartened and aggravated with all of politics in general, but.
Yeah.
When you do something like that, when there's people suffering, people lost their jobs. I mean, unemployment went through the freaking roof in the past 2 weeks.
My old job closed. If I was still working at my old job,
right
I'd be out of a job right now.
Yeah,
the only reason
and
I
I'm
have a
sure
job is
that's a small
I'm
business.
essential.
They would be able to afford to pay you.
Yeah, no, they
so
wouldn't. So they're closed down for now.
And then the Democrats hold this kind of stuff going on. I mean, not saying that well, I don't want to get into politics, but if that's true and they put that in there, just to try to take advantage of the situation is ridiculous. And then you had the guys that there was like 4 of them that dumped a bunch of stock right before after they got out of a private meeting about the pandemic, knowing what was getting ready to happen. They went ahead and dumped a bunch of stock so they wouldn't lose money on it.
Yeah,
they should be out. You should be looking for another job. We don't need you. That's ridiculous too. I mean, if anybody did that in the private sector, the SEC would be all over them, So, now what happened to Martha Stewart? She had to go to prison for that, for like 9 months or a year or something like that. And because she knew somebody in the banking industry who gave her some information before, some stock tanked and she sold out, to avoid losing money, and she got busted and she went to federal prison for it. So no different. I mean, you shouldn't be above the law.
Yeah. So there's, what I looked up, there's 3 bills right now that are being tackled. HR 1186 is the Keep Americans Safe Act, would ban any high capacity magazine or other ammunition feeding device that holds more than 10 rounds of ammunition.
They've done that before. They had that back when I was a constable. We had right after I became a constable, I think they did that. There was a period of time where we had 10. You were locked down to only 10 rounds.
Yeah,
because I had a Glock Model 20 at that time. It had 3 full capacity magazines with extenders and stuff.
Yeah, and then there's HR 1236, which is the Extreme Risk Protection Order Act of 2019. That would pass all red flag laws in all 50 states. And then HR 2708 would ban sales of any firearm to those convicted of any demeanor or hate crime felonies. There's only 3 states that have that is Minnesota, Oregon, and New Jersey.
That one I agree with.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've been a convicted felon, you cannot legally.
Yeah. Well, that's saying anybody who's been convicted of just a misdemeanor too. Misdemeanor or hate crime felony.
Yeah, that's a little much.
That was going on.
I think it kind of to me it would depend on the nature of the crime, you know. So I don't know how I feel about that, but anyways, we don't need to. I think it's ridiculous that they would try to push that in with this, but I know they did. You know, it did pass, and Trump signed off on whatever was passed. So, that's good because they need to get some help to people. Unfortunately, I think that this thing is going to go on for a while, and I don't think that money is going to amount to a whole lot in the people's hands that need it.
If they just shove more money out, then the value of the dollar is just going to go down. It's
that
more money and giving it to so many people is just.
I mean, that amount of money. If this thing goes on for 3 months, $1,000 is not going to go very far for people for 3 months.
Yeah,
you know, people have got bills and stuff going on. You know, they got to pay house payments, car payments, which, obviously if you're unemployed or you get out of put out of business because of this, first thing you'd want to do is call this financial institutions and tell them your situation.
Yeah,
and most of them are already jumping on the bandwagon to try to help out because of this. But it's huge. I mean, it's going to be huge for everybody. Every industry in the U.S. is going to feel this for a long, long time.
I've talked to some of my friends, and they all of them are in unison and agreeing that the government at least is going to bail out Boeing, but maybe not, Southwest Airlines and Spirit and some of the other companies. But at the very least, they're going to bail out Boeing.
I think
just because they've created so much revenue and they are.
But I think they put in that bill that those guys can't get that money and then go turn around and buy back stock or give themselves big bonuses like they did in the
2009 recession.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get on off of that because we could talk about that all day. But so have you heard anything interesting, anything cool?
Not really.
Cryptid wise or anything. I saw some stuff. I didn't get it ready for this episode, but there was some interesting stuff I saw being posted by Cryptozoology News on Instagram lately. I think it was Instagram or Twitter, whatever. I can't remember. But I can't recall off the top of my head. I just know there was some interesting things going on. I think there's been some recent cattle mutilations also that have been posted out in the west, southwest or something. But anyways, I don't have a whole lot of information on that. But anyways, so tonight we talked to Trevor out of Michigan. He had an encounter which was a really interesting encounter. So we're gonna go into that unless you have anything else to add, buddy.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, let's go talk to Trevor and see what he has to say. Okay, it's going. All right, Trevor. Hey, we appreciate you coming on to talk with us, and just jump on into it and tell us what you had happen to you, and we'll go from there.
All right. So it was early in the morning, about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I had just split up from my cousin and I went into the woods, and it was about 100 yards out from the house that I'm at. And as I get closer to the tree stand, I cut into a field that's next door. And as I get up closer, I feel like a dark presence is there. I don't know what it was, but I kind of just shrugged it off as just nerves. And as I got into the patch of woods where the tree stand was at, I heard a yip, and I thought it was a coyote at first. I looked towards where the sound was, and I saw two eyes close to the ground. And I was still thinking it was a coyote. So I pulled up my gun, and then it stood up like a man, and then it ran off. I stood there in awe, shocked, because all I could see was the silhouette of it and the two eyes that it had. And as it ran off, I just stood there and watched it. I had no idea what it was or how I should have dealt with it. And after a couple minutes, I hurried towards the tree stand, just to make sure that it wouldn't come, hoping that it wouldn't come back, but it never did. But I was still shaken throughout the day from it.
Right. And I mean, this, so it happened in the morning. Was there any, did you have any other experiences with it after that, or was it gone?
I talked to one of the neighbors, and they said that they saw something similar to it, to what I had seen. They saw, they heard a yip, and then they didn't see a coyote or anything, but they could hear the footsteps of what sounded like a person.
Right.
And they didn't know what to think of it, what it was either.
Now this happened in Michigan, right?
Yes.
What area of Michigan is this in the what's it called, the peninsula area, the upper part of it?
It's the lower
part.
Yes.
And this happened in what, 2019, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. It was like in the fall, or
It was September 20th, 21st, I think. I don't have a calendar on me.
when you saw the eyes, you said they were real low to the ground when you first saw it.
Yes.
And were they? You said they were glowing.
Yes.
And what color was it?
I had my red light on, so to me it was red, but it could have been
All right. Right.
so because of the light.
How far did you thinking back about the eyes, and how far apart were they? Do you think they were what you would expect a normal like animal to be, or would you feel that they were really far apart, or
They are as close as a person's eyes.
really? Okay.
Mhm.
Just curious, what were you out hunting? Like deer hunting?
Yeah, I was hunting does.
So it stood up after you heard it. I'm guessing that was what made the yipping noise, and it stood up. Did you? I guess you saw like a dark image. I mean, you could see like a silhouette.
Yes, I can see the silhouette of it.
And how would you describe the silhouette?
It looked like a average built man. It was as maybe a little bit taller than me, and I'm 5'11", so I was thinking around 6 foot. But then again, I didn't get a clear look at it.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean that early in the morning is kind of hard to be able to focus on anything when you see it. So I mean, what do you feel like it was you saw?
I honestly have no idea. I've looked up stuff, and people have been saying that skinwalkers have normally transform into coyotes and stuff, and so I kind of pieced it together to be a skinwalker, but I still have no idea.
Right. I'm kind of curious. We've done a number of episodes where we've touched on things, a couple like cases that have been taking place in Michigan, and there's a lot of reports of dogman encounters in Michigan.
Yes.
And so that's when I read your post, I was like, this is pretty interesting, and I'm with it making that kind of a sound, and not being overly tall, because I think a lot of dogman encounters. I mean, I've heard some that people said they were really big, but most of the time they're smaller in size to like what people see compared to like a Sasquatch encounter.
Yeah.
So that happened in 2019. Had you had any previous encounters of any kind before that?
No.
And you said
I've always.
Sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say, you said your neighbor saw something similar. Did they get a better visual, or was it early in the morning, or did they just see a silhouette, or did they elaborate on that?
They didn't go into too much detail. They told me that they had seen like something. They had heard it running, and they looked to where the running was, and they just saw what looked like a man running just in the woods away.
Okay. So no, like when you saw it, I mean, you saw a silhouette, you saw a body, you said it was 6 foot range, normal size, man shaped body. Do you make out a head or anything, or did it just look like normal, like what you would expect a human to be?
It looked as much as a human I would see of a human.
Was what you could see, I guess, at that time, right?
Yeah. When I first saw the eyes, I tried to turn my white light on, but it would not turn on.
Okay. Did you ever consider, like, taking a shot at it, or?
By the time I pulled up my gun, it was running. I heard the first step when I pulled my gun up, and in the second, as I tried to line up, it was gone.
Right. And I think that, a lot of encounters that people have, they have situations like that where they either don't think about it, or it happens so fast that by the time they react, I think it would have to be kind of shocking to have something like that happen at any time, but especially early in the morning, in the woods. It's kind of a freaky thing. So, have you heard of any other, I know the neighbor saw it, but have you heard of anything else in that area? I mean, not necessarily related to what you saw, but just anything unusual happening in that area with, animals missing, or anything like that?
A month after, we had a cat go missing after that, and we tried looking for it, and we couldn't find anything for a while, and then about, I think, November, I went out and I found the body of the cat.
And that was your cat, or somebody else's, or?
It was, we have a rental house, and it was their cat.
Okay. No, I mean, it was just dead. I mean, it was just the body, or was it I mean,
It was
obviously at that time it'd be decomposed, I guess, quite a bit, but
yeah. There was a little bit of the meat still on it, but it was mostly just bone.
right. Okay. Now, after you had your encounter that morning, did you go back to that location? Well, let me rephrase that. Once you had that encounter, did you stay there and continue hunting, or did you leave?
I continued hunting, but I made sure to have my gun up and ready for if it does come back.
Right. So, after it got daylight, did you happen to go to that area and look to see if there was any prints or tracks left?
Yeah.
And did you find anything?
I did find footprints of a normal human foot, but it was a bare footprint. There's no shoes or socks or anything.
Right.
So it confused me why someone would be out there like that.
Right.
So it just baffled me on what it was.
So when you had this encounter that morning, did you think did you at that point did you think of like this is a Sasquatch or this is a Skinwalker or a Dogman, or you just were at what point did you think, hey, I saw something that this is something I can't explain? Was it at that point or later on?
It was at that point that I couldn't figure out what it was.
Okay. Harrison, you got any questions?
No, I mean it was a pretty clear thing. I mean, something that early in the morning. You didn't really get a good look at it, but I thought it was pretty interesting that you said the eyes were about as close together as humans. Because on a coyote or a wolf, I mean they're not super far away, but they don't seem quite as close as a human's.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the range of that maybe being a skinwalker, that gives that a little bit of validity in my mind, because I've heard a lot of stories about people seeing skinwalkers and things like that. But
yeah. I mean, especially when you see, I would think if you saw a bare footprint, human footprint, then that would take the whole Dogman option out of the. I guess. I mean, I don't. Who knows? But to me, that would say you saw something different. But, man, I just had something pop in my head and it's gone. Sorry, you can keep on. I was interrupted you.
Well, I mean that really was kind of it. I mean, yeah, just seeing something that early in the morning. Even if you were, even if you did get a good look at it already being, 5:30, 6 in the morning. I'm sure, fuzzy eyed, and yeah, I wouldn't have probably gotten a clear look at it either. And was the sun up at this point, or was it still dark?
No, but there's the hint of the sun coming up, but
Gotcha.
It wasn't completely up.
Yeah. So that's always, that's kind of a spooky hour, kind of the 3 to 5 a.m. range, where it's not quite. I mean, 3 a.m. it's still usually pretty dark. But as the sun's starting to come up before everything's really gotten going in the world, it's kind of spooky to see everything still kind of empty.
Yeah, it really is the darkest. I guess really the darkest time of night is at that point. I still can't remember what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean that. I've never had an encounter. I mean, we talk about this stuff, but I've never actually had anything other than what we had at our last house with those, ghostly type encounters. But I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine being I mean, it's already, like you said, creepy time to be out in the woods, and then
Yeah.
to have something like that happen and then making noise, Now, that's something I meant to ask you. When it made this yip noise, was it like a normal coyote volume, or was it more, was it louder?
It was at coyote volume, yeah.
Okay. And you feel pretty confident that creature, whatever it was, made that noise?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure there was no other animals around at that time.
Right. Now you said you did feel a dark feeling when you right before you had the encounter, right?
Yes.
Which is you hear that in a lot of cases with skinwalkers and even dogmen and Bigfoot or Sasquatch encounters. People have that weird feeling. Kind of, can you describe what that feeling was like? I mean, was it like in your chest, kind of, or just how can you describe it?
It was completely through my body. It was like a dark shadow was just crushing down on me, and that was trying to like get me to turn around, but I kept pushing on and just shrugged it off. But
Okay, so were you moving when you saw it, or were you
no, I was
already settled?
I was standing, and when I heard the yip, that's when I completely stopped and looked at where it came from.
Okay, and it was I guess in front of you where you saw it, or was it off to
It
the
was
side? Or?
it was more it was I was facing north, so it was about northeast.
Okay.
Northwest of me.
So I mean, that ominous kind of feeling, dreadful kind of feeling, might have been, like you said, it trying to tell you, trying to give you a sense that you're getting ready to make a bad mistake.
Yeah.
Which you hear that in a lot of encounters. People said they just all of a sudden felt very ominous, dreadful presence. So, well, cool. That's a very interesting encounter. I think I have everything I wrote down. I've asked you. Harrison, you got anything else?
Not really. I mean, it was just interesting how you said it was it was low on the ground and then it stood up and walked away. Reminds me of a story I heard a little while ago online. It was this guy and his grandfather, I believe, were going hunting somewhere. I think it was in the central United States. I can't remember what state it was in, but somewhere in the central area. And they were out by a creek and they saw a deer. They heard a noise and they saw a deer. I believe it was a buck, and it was just smashing its head like against a rock. And they were like, what's going on? Is it, is that like worms or something? What's going on? And they just watched it, and it just kept slamming its head against this rock. And eventually it stopped and just stood up like on its hind legs, like human like almost. And they were just like super freaked out, and they just stopped. They didn't run away or anything, because what do you do at that point? And it just stood up and like walked off into a creek or something and just died in the middle of the creek, standing up, and then like fell over. It's just like, animals that just like, maybe what you saw wasn't human, or, it was an animal and it just stood up for some reason. It's just strange. Things like that.
I've seen that post as well, and people were saying it was the chronic waste disease that's been going around.
Yeah.
But it would not have had him walk that far. Deer don't mainly walk on their hind legs.
Yeah.
They do for like a couple seconds, and then they go back down on all fours.
Yeah. When it did stand up, was it a fluid motion?
Yeah.
Because that's something else you hear in a lot of. I've heard in a lot of encounters when people see them. Whatever they encounter when it stands up, the way it stands up is just kind of very quick and very fluid, and it almost defies like what you would think anybody has the ability to do. So, I mean, is that how you felt? Like it was very quick the way it came up?
Yeah, it was very quick from the point where it was crouched down or whatever, or in the form of the coyote or whatever, and then it quickly stood up and ran off.
And when it was down to the ground, I mean, how far off? Like a foot, or was it less than that? Or
It was about a foot
okay.
where the eyes.
Just curious because, you know, a lot of Sasquatch encounters, people have claimed to catch these things, though they call like the spider crawl or being real
Mhm.
low to the ground, and then they stand up. And, you know, when they're low to the ground like that, it's very low, like they're down on their tippy toes, like on their, people claim to see them on their tips of their fingers and tips of their toes. I mean, so they're really low to the ground and then they come straight up from that kind of position. So that's
Yeah.
why I was curious how low it was. So, wow, that's pretty cool. I I don't have any more questions. You got anything, buddy?
No, I think that's it for me.
But yeah, we appreciate you coming on and telling us about that. We don't want to take up your whole Sunday here,
Oh, that's all
but
right.
we really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
all right, have a good Sunday.
Yeah, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so that was Trevor's encounter. Pretty interesting. I mean, there's some very interesting details about it. I mean, I know he didn't get a good look other than the silhouette, but I think there's a lot of things that are indicative of, you know, him seeing something unexplained, and you know, I think the yip part of it, making a yip sound, is something. I'm not sure what, but I don't know. I mean, I think that's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard an encounter where somebody said they heard that kind of a noise coming from it, like a coyote kind of yip. And I think his, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I mean, I thought it was really strange, but it almost seemed it seemed very realistic. You know, people talk about their encounters and stuff where, you know, I was out in the woods hunting and it was early in the morning or late at night and I saw this and it was exactly like this and this is what it was like, and they go into such great detail and description about what they saw, and it's just, you know, it just seems unlikely that if you were to see something so briefly that you would get so much detail out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think unless you're like a person that has been trained to do that, like
Yeah.
a cop or a military person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Most people are like, oh, you know,
I don't know what I saw.
Right.
But you know, but he seemed it was very genuine. Just that he saw something and he saw it stand up and it ran off. He saw a silhouette and he saw the eyes. He could tell about how far apart the eyes were, but other than that, he didn't get any really good details about it. But that's, you know, that's the truth of a lot of encounters.
Yeah. I mean, I asked that about the eyes because a lot of cases in like Sasquatch encounters, people claim that the eyes are farther apart than what they would expect. So, yeah, I mean, who knows what he actually saw? I mean, but it's interesting also that he got a bare footprint after, but I don't know. I mean, it had like it made the yip noise, and then it stood up, and then it ran off bipedally. But yeah, I mean, early in the morning like that, you're at a dark part of, you know, early morning is very dark before the sun comes up. It's like you said in the interview, it's a spooky time. You know, I'm kind of a chicken when it comes to that stuff anyway. So, I don't know that I would have stayed out there. So I admire him for staying out there and continuing his hunt. I'd be like, yeah, oh, screw this. I think I'm going back home.
Yeah.
Have some coffee or something. But yeah, I think, Michigan's an odd place. I mean, I think they got a lot of strange stuff happening up there.
I've seen so many memes about in Michigan. They're like, you know, the new guy moves to town, and they're like, "Have you heard those noises at night?" And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it's just the Skinwalkers." You know,
yeah,
that's yeah.
But I think it's interesting because I don't think I've ever heard really of, and maybe I'm just not paying attention, but I don't think I really heard a lot about skinwalkers in Michigan. I mean, I've heard a lot about dogmen. Maybe they're one and the same. I don't know. I mean, usually skinwalkers you hear out in the Southwest,
Yeah.
That's where I've heard most of the stories. But I mean, or like, what's it called down in Louisiana? What's it called? I'm probably something I'm going to mispronounce. The Rougarou, or is that what it's called?
The Rougarou.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the same thing.
Could be, yeah.
I mean, I think, what people, how they describe and stuff, I think it's kind of like a skinwalker kind of deal. Yeah, I mean, Michigan's got some strange stuff. I mean, we've done episodes where we talked about Michigan and some weird stuff, like the dude that went missing in the peninsula up there. Remember, he called his girlfriend, or what, he was a football player or something, and he called his girlfriend and said these two people were following him and they're about to catch him or something. Remember that? I don't even remember what the guy's name was, but that was a strange encounter because they looked for him for like a number of days, looked all over the area there, couldn't find him, and then wasn't it like, then all of a sudden they found him like on a path or something, or right off a path where they had been searching. There'd been like hundreds of people searching the area, and all of a sudden there he is. This is a missing 411 case. A very typical scenario in those cases.
I think there's something, I mean, not strange, but I think there's definitely something that lives in forests, So whether it be dogmen or Bigfoot or what, deer are pretty strange animals, but
squirrels, raccoons.
You got to think the oldest habitat on Earth is the forest. There's the deserts came after, and the ocean. Maybe the ocean was first. So, but we don't usually go down to the bottom of the ocean very often. But there's something ancient about the forests.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, there's a lot of forest that I think has been either not explored or explored very little, I mean, can you imagine that? It's kind of scary to think that there's places on this planet that maybe a human foot's never touched.
Never been, yeah. Just completely wild places.
Yeah. I mean, there's, what's the show? Mountain Men. And they follow these 6 or 7 guys that just live off the land and the mountains and stuff. And a couple of those guys live in Alaska, and the areas where they live are just insane. I mean, there's nobody for hundreds of miles. And, I mean, you think about it. You think about Siberia. You think about China, parts of China. Huge, vast areas in the South America.
Rural land, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's areas. And then you get somewhere like Antarctica, which, I know is almost uninhabitable.
But there's almost certainly something in Antarctica. I mean, as big as it
sure,
is.
It was a Nazi base.
Yeah, probably more than that. But, I mean, there's got to be a lot more going on in Antarctica than we think about, because it's just such a large landmass.
Right.
Of an ice mass. But there's just, it's just too big for there not to be something
Well, I
going
mean,
on.
the underlying landmass is pretty big.
Yeah,
it's pretty massive.
It's a place that civilians go to in such small numbers, and they explore such a little, portion of it that I can't imagine that most governments haven't taken advantage of that and put something up there. Because Area 51, if you've got all the crazy stuff that you don't want people to find out about, where are you going to put it? Are you going to put it in the middle of a desert where there's highways and stuff near it? Or are you going to put it in the most isolated continent
I think
on
at
Earth?
one time they did, and they realized,
yeah, maybe not the best idea.
Yeah.
And then, or put it in this, thousands of square kilometers of just nothing, places nobody's ever seen. And it's just shifting, pretty often. And it's
right.
And think
I don't think Area 51 is the Area 51 that it was 30, 40 years ago.
No, probably not. After all the alien stuff started blowing up and it got popularity, I'm sure they just
I mean, if
anything that was interesting there.
If anything, they've probably relocated. It's probably just right now. It's kind of a false flag kind of place. They just keep it that way and make people think it's something going on. In reality, it's probably somewhere else, like you said.
Yeah.
And Antarctica. I mean, why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
Yeah, and think about like South, like you said, South America and like Africa, the jungles of Africa and
Yeah,
stuff. There's so
yeah.
much land that people have been there, but maybe hundreds of years ago, a tribe or something walked through it. It's not like
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Amazon, there's tribes there that know about these creatures, and then, they have some foreigner come in there like, oh my gosh, we heard this story about such, and they were like, oh yeah,
yeah, that's right.
Joe saw one last week,
yeah,
know.
like even well documented cases like the coelacanths. There was the one tribe in Africa where they were like, we've spotted this, we found a coelacanth washed up on shore, and we think that there might be a colony of them swimming around. And these people were like, yeah, we catch them in these fishing
they're
boats.
selling them at the fish
We
market.
catch them in the boats all the time.
Yeah, and they went down there to the fish market, and they're laying there on the table.
And it's just, it's crazy to think that
Yeah.
some of the oldest creatures on Earth are still alive that are just swimming around, and we just had no clue about it. And,
Well, I mean, there's accounts of people, tribes, and in the Amazon seeing dinosaur type creatures, and they're like, oh yeah, we have those running around in here.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, they would have greatly evolved from the time of dinosaurs and whatnot, just as much as we have. But that's not to say that they've gotten smarter and are bipedal and have big brains like us, because the rest of the reptiles don't have that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of dinosaur-like creature running around Africa or South America or whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't. I mean, I know we did kind of an episode on this, but I mean, you can't say that. Who knows if it's actually a creature that exists now, and it's been around all this time, just being elusive, or if it's some kind of time slip. Because I mean, you have people. There's always, every once in a while, there's accounts of people like Arizona driving down the road and they see like, freaking velociraptor or something go, or see a pterodactyl or what's it called, a pterosaur, something like that fly over, and they describe it, they draw a little sketch of it. How can you explain that? I mean, how can you hide something like that? How can it be
strange? You can't really hide it. It's just that it's rare. Things like that are rare. They have to be rare, or else it'd be happening every day, and it'd be kind of mainstream.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, who? I mean, I've heard some crazy stuff, like people going into a new town to visit or whatever, and they go into a store and they come out like all the cars are like from the 50s. All of a sudden, they're like, people are dressed like period clothing. They're like, what's going on? This is weird. Some kind of festival or something going on. Then they go into another store and they come out and everything's back to where it was. What do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
because then at that point, if they're actually traveling back in time, would then at that point they be time travelers? Somebody would have seen them.
I mean, if it's a time slip, I guess technically that's what it is.
Back in the 50s, then you come back to modern day and you look up some article, and somewhere in the 50s there's an article that there's a time traveler that walked out of a store and they looked all strange.
That's interesting that you say that, because I can't remember where I heard this story, but there was a story about this guy. He was like a college student, and he was kind of adventurous, and I might have actually talked about this before. I can't remember. But somebody dared him. There was like this old house, like mansion in their town, and it was like the teenage thing to do, go out there and try to stay a night in that town, that house, and it was known to be creepy, haunted, whatever. So he's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'm not scared of that. So he took his overnight bag and his little book bag, and he ran out there, and he went into this house, and he kind of was knocking around, exploring. And at some point, he was in like the library area of the house, and he saw this apparition or this person with like a book. And the guy gets the book, and then he goes up the stairs, and this young kid went to follow him, and it walked like through a wall. And he freaked out, left or whatever. I don't know. Maybe he spent the night. I can't remember how the story went, but he was intrigued by it. So he started doing research about this house, and he went to the local library, and he was asking the librarian about it, and she was like, oh. She's like, yeah, that house used to belong to my grandfather. He was like, really? He's like, yeah. So somehow there was a diary that her grandfather had written, and her grandfather had written in there, like for that day, like what, 60 years before or 100 years before, whatever, or great grandfather, he had written in that diary that he encountered some strange man in his house with a book bag on and like a tank top. He was, of course, they didn't know what tank tops were back then. The kid was wearing a tank top and shorts, but he described what the guy was wearing. He had written it in his diary, and he had seen this kid, and it freaked him out, and he wrote it in his diary like 100 years before.
What do you do at that point?
Right.
I'm a time traveler.
I mean, these things
That's
happen.
crazy.
I mean, and this is kind of what I was saying with what I was going to say when you were talking about Trevor with what he saw tonight, who we interviewed. Nobody knows what he saw. He don't know what he saw.
Yeah.
But he saw something. And I mean, that was kind of the basis of us starting this podcast, Unexplained Reality. It's unexplained. People are seeing things they can't explain.
Yeah.
But they really saw it.
Yeah. It was there. Yeah.
Everybody else can make fun of it and say, oh, yeah, they're full of crap, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead. You can say that all you want. But that person saw something that changed their mind, changed their thought process, changed a lot of things, you know. I mean, people that see Sasquatch, I don't know how many times I've heard people says it totally changed my whole thought process. It totally changed my world to see this, because this is something that should not exist.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it.
What do you
I
do?
mean,
Yeah.
any of these encounters like this, I mean, Dogman, Skinwalker, Sasquatch, Time Slip, I mean, any of that. I mean, what do you do with it? It happened. You saw it. I mean, well, we had it going on in our old house. I mean, we all had encounters.
Yeah.
I didn't
All of
see
us, yeah.
anything, but I heard stuff constantly heard stuff. You saw something. You saw stuff early in the morning when you were just little. Mom saw a shadow figure. Amber saw something. I don't know that Taylor did. Taylor heard stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we all had encounters. The dog saw something.
Yeah. It's just.
I mean, you know, people are seeing stuff and they can't explain it. I can't explain it. You can't explain it. We can try, but we're not going to. Nobody knows. It's just like, you know, there's so many phenomenons out there that people are experiencing, and what do you do with it? All you can do is keep talking about it, and that's why, you know, that's our whole concept here for this show. I mean, we don't know. We don't know the answers. We can't make fun of people, and we might act stupid and stuff, but when it comes down to it, we don't know what happened at our old house, why we had those experiences. We don't know why Trevor had what he had happen to him. Who knows? But, you know,
Yeah.
something happened, and it's crazy. But anyways, but you have anything else to add about this?
No, not really.
Okay. So with that being said, if you had an encounter or an experience and you would like to talk with us, we would love to talk to you about it, because we don't know what you saw or what you experienced, but we would like to learn about it and try to help you, or just, you know, chat it up with you about it. Even if you don't want to be on an episode, we would love to hear your story. Even if you don't want to be interviewed, yeah, please send us an email or hit us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or go to our website and fill out the little comment form, and let us know what you experienced. You can be anonymous. You don't have to come on the show. We don't have to talk about it on the episode, but we'd like to hear it regardless. You just let us know what you want to do. We want to hear it. Our email is unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. Like I said, unexplainedreality.com is our website. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Come follow us, like us, whatever. Leave a comment.
Yep.
Tell us we suck. Any of the above. So I think that's it for me. Hopefully everybody stays in their house and don't be going out having parties or nothing.
Stay
in the
at
street.
home. Don't go to Miami.
Yeah, going partying out on the sandbar. So keep the Rona down.
Keep the Rona down.
Anything else you got?
Nope.
All right, we're out. You guys have a good week or 2 weeks or 3 months, wherever, before we have another episode, however long it is. See y'all. Here at Unexplained Reality, we support our troops and veterans 100%. Our family has a number of veterans, and my son-in-law is active duty serving our wonderful country. We have come across a great veteran-owned company called Awesome Bad Clothing. They have some very cool t-shirts and hats, and best of all, they are veteran-owned. So go check them out at awesomebadclothing.com and let them know you heard about them from Unexplained Reality. And when you go to checkout, type Unexplained in the coupon code box to get 10% off.
Liquor, 110 proof, pure grain alcohol. Barkeep, bring me a whiskey. Don't keep me waiting, come on down here and hit me. Give me a 6C water back. How about a Jim Beam or a Jack? A Boilermaker with a beer chaser. Anything to get my mind off of her. In a shot glass.